thanks for joining us. Before we get to today's episode, which features Vicki Delany, I want to first dedicate this episode to the memory of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who, as you know, passed this week. May her memory be a blessing not only to her family, but to us all. And by blessing, I mean, may it inspire us to greater feats of seeking justice, of seeking equality, of seeking a better world for all of us, for as long as we have this world at our disposal. It may or may not sustain us into the next century, but for whatever time we have left, we've got to work towards making this a better world. And that's what Ruth's legacy means to me. Thank you for your service, and may you rest in peace, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Justice of the Supreme Court. And now to our episode. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Dead to Rights, the podcast video for the crime genre industry. And season 4 would not be complete without an interview with our own Vicki Delany, who is an extremely prolific writer. You will know her as Vicki Delany, Eva Gates, and she's got a vast array of titles spanning police procedural, gritty detective, psychological thrillers, and also cozies. Most recently, she writes a series of cozies, which she'll tell us all about. But before we bring Vicki on the line, I just want to remind you about our anthology coming out in the fall from Carrick Publishing, titled A Grave Diagnosis. It's currently in the copy edit procedure, and then it will go into layout and formatting and publication. And I'm hoping that the whole works will be done by October. So look for that to come out in the fall. It's titled A Grave Diagnosis, 35 Tales of Murder and Malaise. And the theme of this anthology for 2020 is illness as well as murder, because it is a crime anthology. So please do watch for that. All our crime lovers are going to really enjoy it. We've got 35 terrific writers in this. And yes, there's a story from me too. Mine is the title story, A Grave Diagnosis. So please watch for that. It's something that ventures off a little from my usual, and I hope you'll enjoy it. And now let's bring Vicki Delany on the line. Hi, Vicki. How are you this morning?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm very well. Yes. Thank you for joining us today. I know that you're a very, very busy writer. I've been scanning through your titles. How many titles do you have now? I can't even count them.
I've barely lost track. Over 35, I think.
Over 30. Under Eva Gates, you're writing primarily cozies. Is that right?
I'm writing only cozies now, under both my names.
Under both names. Okay. Okay.
That's right.
What made you make the switch? Because you in the past used to write some very gritty police procedurals, and you also wrote some psychological thrillers, which were right up my alley. I love those.
Yep, that's right. It was basically, it just sort of fell into it. I was quite happy writing the darker, the grittier stuff. And like I said, I wrote the Constable Molly Smith series set in BC and a couple of standalone psychological suspense. And I was quite happy writing that, but I had an idea for a cozy series, or for a lighter series, shall we say. Mm-hmm. And I actually wrote to my good friend, Mary Jane Maffini, who is a cozy writer, and asked her if she'd, show my idea to her agent. And basically one thing led from there. And once I got my foot in the cozy door, I found that I really, really liked it. Mm-hmm. I'm happy not to be writing the dark, disturbing stuff anymore.
Although, for someone like me, I just love them. I really enjoyed Juba Good. Now, I didn't read, I think there was another book in that series, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was 3 in all.
Haitian Graves and Blood and Belonging.
That's
and
right.
I didn't read those two. Did they follow along the same vein?
Same idea. Yeah, that was a series about an RCMP officer working for the UN in some of the, the world's hotspots. Mm-hmm. So in Juba Good, he goes to South Sudan. In Haitian Graves, obviously, he goes to Haiti. And in Blood and Belonging, he went on vacation to Turks and Caicos and found stuff obviously to get involved in. And I wrote those books because I had been to all of those places. And I was lucky enough to actually be able to meet with RCMP officers who are working in those countries and, you know, assisting sort of the local police to get their police forces running and working properly in that. Yeah, so that was a really, really interesting experience. It was. And then I kind of ran out of developing countries where I had contacts. So
so you had to move on. And I promise I won't keep you stuck in the past, but I have to tell you, I also really loved your Molly series, The Into the Shadow of the Glacier. I'm not speaking well this morning, sorry. Valley of the Lost, Winter of Secrets, Negative Image, Among the Departed, A Cold White Sun, Under Cold Stone, and Unreasonable Doubt. And if anyone out there is a fan of police procedurals, please look those up by Vicki Delany. Start with In the Shadow of the Glacier. You will not be disappointed.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, I mean, I really liked writing that series too, but there were 8 books in that series. And it's set in a fictional version of my favorite place in all the world, which is Nelson, British Columbia, where I still go quite regularly because one of my daughters lives there. But after 8 books, I did start to feel that that the series was kind of winding down.
And prior to that, you had your Gold Digger series, your Klondike mystery books. And if anyone is a fan of historical mystery, I highly recommend. You're going to look for Gold Digger, Gold Fever, Gold Mountain, and Gold Web. Anything that starts with gold is going to be a Vicki Delany Klondike mystery. And your character in that is just a hoot. The very big-hatted. Tell us about her.
Okay, that's I really did. That's actually my sort of initiation into writing lighter books, because they're not really cozies, but they're still pretty much intended to be on the lighter side. And basically, the main character owns a saloon and dance hall in Dawson City in 1898, right at the height of the gold rush. And she's a woman with a, quote unquote, mysterious past. And I really enjoyed getting into the nitty gritty of what it was like in Dawson City in 1898. And with the characters, the characters that pass through that town is just, absolute gold mine.
Yes.
Gold mine for writing a really great series.
Remind me of her name, because it's been a while since I've read
Fiona McGillivray.
That's right, Fiona, and she is just like her name. She's a very bright spark.
And she's Scottish, and she has a son, and her son's 12 years old. And I enjoyed writing the son because he's 12 years old, growing up in that amazing environment. So I have a little bit of first person from him as he's exploring this town. And of course, he thinks that he's got to be the protector of his mother because, his father is dead.
Of course he does. He's a 12-year-old boy. Yeah. How could you not, right? Now, you've described that as maybe a segue to the lighter works, but it has got a serious side. I remember that you had a character who had been abused, a Native American woman, and that took a little darker turn, and so it's not overly light, really.
No, actually, you're right about that, because I did touch on that, but I think I tried to keep I guess I just found Fiona herself somebody that that I would rather play kind of lightly. She is self-proclaimed the most beautiful woman in the Klondike grade, so I have a little bit of fun.
How could you not like that?
But so when and even in cozy mysteries, I mean, we're still dealing with murder, right? So so it can't be 100% light. Somebody killed somebody for some reason.
That's right. That's exactly right. Tell me about the very first book that Eva Gates ever wrote.
Oh, Eva Gates writes the Lighthouse Library series. So the first in that series is called By Book or By Crook. And that series was originally published by Penguin Random House. It's now published by Crooked Lane. So in fact, there are 6 out now, with 2 more coming. And that's, it's about an amateur sleuth, as cozies are. It's set in a lighthouse in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. The main character is a librarian there. And a library is a good place for having lots of people passing through. Because one thing you need, think of something like Murder, She Wrote, right? And Cabinet Cult.
Yeah.
For an amateur series, you have to have a whole lot of people turning over all the time, meaning, people to reason to drop in. And the sleuth has to have the kind of a job that has some bit of flexibility, so they go rushing off and investigate murders all the time.
Of course.
Yeah, but that was great. I went down to the Outer Banks. I'd never even been there before I started writing the series. And I always enjoy going and checking these places out. So that was great. Yeah. So there are now the 7th. I am losing count. The 6th, or is it the 7th? Is coming out in October, and it's called A Death Long Overdue.
A Death Long Overdue. I was going to ask you what it was called, and it comes out in October.
October, that's right.
The first was titled By Hook, by Book or by Crook. By Book, or nice play on words. And the 7th is called A Death Long Overdue. So look for all the 6 in between. And if you're a fan of Jessica Fletcher, it's funny that you said Murder, She Wrote, because when you first came out with By Book or by Crook, I immediately thought of Jessica Fletcher and Murder, She Wrote. So fans of Murder, She Wrote, look for these books. You're going to get a real enjoyment thrill out of them.
That's right. And things like Death in Paradise, is that what it's called? Death in Paradise on TV, the British TV show. The same kind of a feel, right? That you've got this small little, like, why would anyone ever go for vacation to that island where the murder rate is, once a week? So but that small intimate community with lots of people giving you lots of motives for murder and mayhem.
Yes, and lots of sunshine because you're right on the coast. And, it's just going to draw the sunshine. It's going to draw the characters. It's really wonderful. And as you say, the death rate, you might want to just go virtually, people. Read the books. Don't actually visit. What is your librarian's name in that series?
Lucy Richardson is her name. Not only is the series set in Nags Head, North Carolina, which of course is a real town, it's actually, the library is in a real building. The Body Island Lighthouse actually exists. I've been there. It is a lighthouse. It's nowhere near big enough to have a library and an apartment and a rare books room and offices and staff, and all that kind of stuff. But it is actually a real place. So outside of the actual interior of the lighthouse, which I turned into my library, it is as described.
So the library, as you said, the lighthouse was called Body Lighthouse?
BODIE, Body Island.
Body Island, that's wonderful.
Yep, it's actually named after the Body family, who were one of the original settlers there. And their name was BODY. And why the name of the island, which is not an island anymore, it also used to be an island, but sands shift and it's not an island anymore. Why the spelling got changed and the pronunciation didn't, I don't know.
I think you can probably imagine why, because too much of a play on words for an actual But it's wonderful. I mean, talk about a place being a character. That is just terrific for a crime series. Yeah. And you've also got, I mean, this just goes on and on and on, because you've also got A Winter Kill. You've got, let's see now, Elementary She Read. What is that?
That's my Sherlock Holmes Bookshop series.
Okay.
That I do write under the name of Eva Gates. No, sorry, Vicki Delany. I write those under my Vicki Delany name. And that's also a cozy series, but it's set in a Sherlock Holmes bookshop. So the main character owns the Sherlock Holmes Bookshop and Emporium. And that series I really enjoy writing because the character, her name's Gemma Doyle, is Sherlock Holmes. So she's basically my interpretation of Sherlock Holmes as a modern young woman, meaning she has that brain, right? She's got that thought process. She can look at you and instantly analyze everything, there is to know about you and where you had breakfast and all that sort of stuff. And, she's sometimes not entirely aware that she's offending people if she's they're not fast enough to keep up to her train of thought. So, so she gets a little annoyed about that. But that's, again, it's a light series, it's a cozy series, and that's lots of fun throwing in all those Sherlock Holmes elements.
And her name is Gemma
Doyle.
Gemma Doyle. Oh my goodness, look for those. And that's under the Sherlock Holmes Bookshop series.
That's right. Yeah.
That's by Vicki Delany. Now, when I first knew you, there was no Eva Gates. And we're going to go back in time again for a moment. When I first met Vicki Delany, people, she had just written and published Whiteout, which was a terrific book. It still holds up if you find it. And from there, we went through several titles, and then we came to one of my personal favorites, titled Burden of Memory. And tell us a little bit about Burden of Memory.
Okay, that book was published by Poison Pen Press. Now, that's quite a while ago. I think that
it is. It's a long time ago.
Quite a long time ago. Yeah, and I really like writing those psychological suspense standalones. That is actually what I, mostly read. But, I've gone on now to doing the cozies, but I remember those books really fondly. So Burden of Memory is set on the Muskoka area of Ontario, a historic old cottage where this elderly woman hires a biographer to help her write the memoirs. Mm-hmm. And the biographer goes up to this cottage to sort of live there over the season. It's around Thanksgiving time, as I recall. And of course, there's secrets in the family, and someone doesn't want the elderly lady's memoirs to be published. And there's a hint of, something still living in the woods. Yeah. That's a memory of something that had happened at the very beginning of World War II. So the book also has, as did my other standalones, flashbacks to the past. Mm-hmm. In Burden of Memory, the elderly lady had been a Canadian Army nursing sister in World War II, so you sort of follow her path through that. Mm-hmm. And I really like that, drawing the parallels between the past and the present. And the concept is always that the events of the past are still affecting what's happening in the present, and the people in the present have to resolve the issues of the past.
But you did it very, very well, in particular in that book. You did it well in all of them. They're all worth reading. But that one in particular, I really enjoyed. I thought you did a masterful job in that book. Yeah. Now, tell me a little bit about how COVID is affecting you, because you are a traveler from a way back. And I imagine you're a little bit curtailed at the moment.
Well, certainly I'm curtailed in not traveling. Mm-hmm. I was in Mozambique in March. I had to come back a week early. Fortunately, I had already been there 3 weeks. I was planning to stay for a month. So I had my 3 weeks. But it was interesting to be there while there was no COVID there in Mozambique, but we're watching the news of all this stuff shutting down, particularly in Europe, in Italy, right? And we're watching all this. And then the Prime Minister went on TV and said, Canadians should all come home. So I rebooked my ticket. So there was that. And I mean, I don't have any trips planned for the foreseeable future. I'm certainly hoping to be able to go again. But what I'd like to do actually is do some exploring in Canada in the fall. If we can get out a little bit, I might go out to BC and go to Tofino and Ucluelet and things like that, if stuff's opened up.
Which will allow me a quick segue. Sorry for interrupting, Vicki. I have to plug our good mutual friend, Joan O'Callaghan, her Colors of Canada. If you're traveling in Canada, please look for that, because it was years of work on her part, and it is really breathtaking. Sorry for the interruption, Vicki. You're going to go out to BC, and you have a daughter there too.
Yeah, that's right. I have a daughter and a grandson who lives there. So, that's one thing that this has sort of affected. It would have been nice. I was supposed to go to the When Words Collide festival in Calgary in August. That was canceled, of course. I am the co-organizer of Women Killing It Festival in Prince Edward County. Mm-hmm. We canceled it for this year. So hopefully things will start going again. But as for me personally dealing with COVID-19, basically this is the way I live my life. I have a little house in the countryside and I write every day, and so basically that hasn't really meant all that much to me.
You and Rick Muffina too said the same thing, that this is how he lives anyway. So yeah, that's wonderful.
And how are you guys getting on? Your family managing okay?
We are. Now the kids, of course, the two youngest, they finished their school year online, and they did quite well. Our youngest is turning 18 this week, and she goes off to U of T in the fall, which will probably start online. So off means shut her bedroom door. And our middle son, Ted, he's going to be 22 in early August, and he just completed his music degree, his fine arts degree at York, and he is entering, well, he has already entered Sherlock business program for Masters of Management, which they're doing online right now. They opened up the courses this week, in fact, so he just started. So yeah, they're doing well, and our oldest is the only one who goes out of the house to work. He worked for Canadian Tire, and it was considered essential service because of the transport industry. So he went out to work every single day during the entire thing, with lots of admonitions from mom to be safe, wear his mask, to keep his distance, to use his hand sanitizer, and and so far, when he comes home, he strips everything off, and that's the way we live. And Alec and I are still working from home. We're doing well. And thank you for asking. Yeah. And your daughters, how are they?
Well, my youngest daughter is a paramedic in Toronto. So, so she's really into it. In fact, the thick of it. So I haven't seen her since the night before I left Mozambique, actually, until yesterday. So she came out. She's come for a visit. She's staying in a hotel just because she feels that she doesn't want to come into my house. Obviously, her chances of being exposed are higher than most people. And we went out last night to an outdoor patio for dinner, and we sat out. I have a really nice deck, and I have a swimming pool, so we sat outside at my, in my yard yesterday. She's going to come by in a bit, and we'll do that again today. So it's been really nice to see her. My second daughter lives in Nelson, British Columbia, and she's managing fine because she has a 2-year-old, but her husband is the stay-at-home dad. So they didn't have to scramble for daycare or anything like that because she's still working at home. And my oldest daughter lives in Mozambique. That's why I was there. And she's kind of trapped. She's actually, they have like real lockdown there. There's no flights in and out. No non-residents are allowed in the country at all. So she's feeling a little bit trapped there. But there's a heck of a lot worse places in the world to be trapped because it's a pretty nice country.
Yes. Well, I'm glad they're all well, and I'm going to touch wood because, that's what we're hoping for. It's just everyone to get to the other side. Exactly. And while you're on lockdown, look for Vicki Delany, look for Eva Gates. You are guaranteed to enjoy them. I have no hesitation at all. I've read many of them myself, and you're going to get a real kick out of these books. So,
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, it's genuine. I hope you can tell. And thank you so much for joining us today on Dead to Rights. I'm so sorry I was a little bit delayed. I had a little technical instance, and but it's great, Vicki. It's been far too long.
It has been far too long. And once this is over, we absolutely have to get the old gang together.
I think
the Scotland Yard pub in Toronto where we used to go. Remember we used to go there? So. Absolutely.
I might take the bus so I can have a drink. I think I owe myself a drink.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Vicki. I want to extend a very special thank you to my old friend, Vicki Delany, for joining us today on Dead to Rights, the podcast video for the crime genre industry. As I said earlier, our season would not have been complete without Vicki. She's very prolific, and I'm sure you've read her work under one of her working nom de plumes, either Vicki Delany or Eva Gates. As always, I want to thank Ted Carrick, the producer and music provider for Dead to Rights, for his theme song, Eyes of Gold. And I hope we'll see you next week.
Dusty road, a man alone. His vital signs go on hold, and I don't know what you've been told, but the years have turned my eyes gold, and I told you what you told me we'd never be in the same boat for free. Yet it rides. Let it rock.